Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to start a series for the month of June, working with paper because June 1st through June 30th, selected DSP papers, designer series papers, will be on sale for 15% off. So I thought it would be kind of fun to do some card designs that work with paper and some light stamping. So these are the ones that are going to be on sale starting June 1st. It's going to be the Bright and Beautiful 6x6, the Countryside Inn 12x12, Delightfully Eclectic 12x12, Earth and Elegance 12x12, Fresh as a Daisy 12x12, Glorious Gingham 6x6, pretty paper, Hello Irresistible 6x6. Now this is an online exclusive. You can't find this on your catalog, but you can go online to my website and look at online exclusives and find this paper. That's going to be on sale as well. And that's what we're going to work with today. Inked Botanical 6x6 paper. And then we have the Les Shop 12x12, Let's Go Fishing 12x12, Masterfully Made 12x12, Stargazing 12x12, and the Zoo Crew 12x12. So all of these papers will be on sale starting June 1st through June 30th for 15% off. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do this, and I need to remember what this is called. It's a quilt block that I was inspired by to make this card. And let me see really quick. I can't remember what it's called. I will put the name of the quilt block in the description and where I got the inspiration. But I thought this would be a really fun for people, for quilters you may know that love quilting. These are my two samples that I played with to get the measurements. And we are going to work on this one. This is a 4x4 square. And then I'm going to show you how to make it on a 4x5 1/4. So we're going to use, as I said, the Hello Irresistible paper pack, and I've already cut into it some. And this is just beautiful paper. It's got some beautiful background pieces, some beautiful printed pieces that you could use. You can die cut this out with the Hello Irresistible set. Just some really pretty fun paper. And then I will show you the sample I made a little bit later. So to start off with, what you're going to need, here's all the pieces. And I'm using this type of cut for a card base. So this is 11 by 8.5, and you're going to score it at 5.5 inches for your card base. So we've got that. And then I've got my 4x4 square. This is a matte. I thought it looked nice matted. So we're going to do 4 1/8 by 4 1/8 squares. That's going to be the matte for that. Now for our pieces, I have 1/2 inch strips. So to get the effect of that card, you need 1/2 inch strips to be able to put down, and you're going to want them to be darker than these pieces that you're filling in. I just played with these scraps. It's a great scrap buster too. So I just played with these scraps to get this design here. But I don't think that this quilt design stands out with this darker paper, unless maybe these were all really light. But since they're kind of bright, it doesn't really make it stand out. But this does. So that's what we're going to play with. So what I've done is I've taken 1/2 inch or cut 1/2 inch strips from my 6x6 paper. You may also have scraps. It's, like I said, a great scrap buster. And then these are 2 inch by 2 inch square. For this piece here, these are going to work to fill in those pieces. And I just cut it. You don't have to cut it by these measurements to fill in, but I find it's easier to handle than a big sheet of paper if that's what you have for a scrap. Okay, so, and I have 4 of each design that I'm going to use. Now I could flip these and use the pattern, but I'm going to use these light patterns here. I just like this style for this card. So I'm going to go ahead. You need 4 of one color 3 different colors, 4 half-inch strips of each to complete this card. The length needs to be long enough to stick out past here so that we can trim off the edges, because we're going to completely fill in this 4x4 square. So to start off with, pencil and a ruler. So from this corner to this corner, you need to draw a line, and the same thing from this corner to this corner. It's going to give us a line to line up those half-inch strips, and it's going to show us our center point. And you don't have to erase the pencil marks because we're covering this whole thing, so it's not going to be seen. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to make sure I get it in each corner as close as possible. So we get our angle right, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. And if it's off a smidge, it's not going to hurt anything. It's a quilt. It's like a paper pieced quilt block. Okay, so we have our lines. That's all the drawing we need to do on our piece. So these are fill-ins. So those are going to be our last pieces that we go in, those 2-inch squares. So now we have to decide what order we want these placed in. Do we want this being the first strip? Whatever the first strip is going to be your center right here. That looks like you've got a square filled in there. So whatever your first strip is, that's what that's going to be. So I think what I want to do is I want to rotate this, and we'll put it this way. I want this one to be my first, this one to be my second, and this one to be my third strips. So okay, so just need your glue. And since we have this line here, I found it easier so I'm not getting glue sticking out past here. Just to kind of guesstimate, and it's okay if it goes over because you're going to have other paper. I'm just going to, kind of guess what a half-inch strip of glue is and just get that glue on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay this down. And I want to line up in that corner up to that line and next to this line here, not going over. Just like that. Then I'm going to take my next piece and I'm going to do the same thing. Once you lay your first piece, you've got the layout for the rest of the card. So now you're just going to line up that line, butt this up to this next piece here, and make sure that's all lined up. Then we'll take our next piece and do the same thing. Okay, that side is done, and now we can rotate to the other side. And we're going to do that in each triangular section that you drew out, those 3 pieces. Now for this one, when you line this up, you're going to want to make sure not only that you're lined up with that center line there, but that you are not going past this line, so that this all lines up right here, so that this all lines up. Make sure it's butted up to those 3 pieces, lined up. And then we'll take our next one. And do the same thing. Now that we have that, we just want to make sure that this all lines up. And then our other piece here. And then we'll turn it and do the same thing again. And once you lay your first piece and you get this lined up. You don't necessarily have to follow the pencils anymore. You can just make sure that you're following the line of your paper. So right here on this piece, I want to make sure that this line is lined up all the way down, and then we're butted up against those pieces. And then our third piece. And I love the variation. It's almost this Hello Beautiful almost has a batik effect to it. Okay, now we've got those lined up. Now time for our last section here. Make sure that is all butted up. Now you're going to make sure that this, again, this line is in line, but that you're also butted up against all the card pieces that we've laid down. Okay, and then our last piece here. Another way you can do this is apply adhesive to this whole thing, because you're going to be gluing down paper to the whole thing, and then you would already have that without adding the glue. Okay, so now that we have this done, here is our end result. We're going to flip this over, and we're just going to take our paper snips and trim that away. Now these pieces that are left, you probably could make another card out of. I just liked having the 4 pieces because if I'm using scraps, as I was making my sample, sometimes my scraps were not long enough. So I just like to make sure I have 4 of the same pattern pieces pre-cut when putting this card together. And then trim away this last piece here. Okay, so there is that part. Now all we need to do is we need to fill in with our squares. Now to get the measurement, if you want to cut the squares, you just take your ruler, and you'll want to do this after you've laid this down, because this could be different depending on how this all laid out. So I measured how wide this, from that point to that point, the white space was, and it's like 1 3/4, 1 7/8. So I just, to be healthy, cut it by 2 inches. And if you cut it by 2 inches for this 4x4 square, you should be able to get, it should cover all of the squares if you're just a little bit more generous with what you cut out. So I'm just going to go ahead and put glue on here and lay this in here. Now this theoretically, my samples, I used bigger pieces. This should, when I cut it away, should work to fill in the other side. We will see. So I'm going to go ahead and lay these down into these 4 spaces here. And then I'm going to flip it and cut them away. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Okay. Now we'll fill in these two sides here. Just going to take that other corner there, put that in there. Make sure that's in and butted up, and then do the same thing on this side. And then flip this over and cut those away. It's kind of a fun shape there. We could probably do something with that shape. And there is your quilt block with paper. Okay, since this is a quilt block, I actually want to quilt this with our one of our embossing folders. So let me grab my machine here and I'll bring that over. I'm going to set these aside and we will quilt this. We use the cane weave. Okay. I just got my big cut and emboss machine. Before I signed up for Stampin' Up, I already had a die cutting machine, and so I hadn't bought the big one yet, just the small one. And I'm going to tell you, I really love this cut and emboss machine. I'm using the cane weave this time. So I'm just going to line that up in there and I'm going to run this through the machine. All you're going to need for this machine is your base plate, because this is a 3D embossing folder, and your gray plate, your number 4. Then we're just going to lay this on here and get this embossed. And there we go. I love that. It's so pretty. Set this aside. Back in frame. Now we're going to go ahead and mount this on here on your mat. That again is 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. Make sure you do a decent amount of glue if you're going to emboss quilt this. So that way it gets everywhere, because it is a bumpy surface. And then we're just going to go ahead and mat this on our mat. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and mat this on our card base. And the design of this card is just to showcase that quilt block pattern. So I'm not going to put anything else on this. It's just going to showcase our pretty paper and that pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this. Onto the card base here. Make sure it sticks. Okay, so what I thought we would do is kind of play with the stamp set that coordinates with this paper. And I get my blocks ready. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna, let's see, I have this piece here. Let's see, I'm winging this part now. I have not designed this. I have kind of something in my head. So I'm gonna do a thank you right there. And the color I used is my matte is the Lost Lagoon. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. Lay this so I can play with the designing here. And I'm just gonna do a simple thank you. And I'm going to do that in the Lost Lagoon ink color. Let's hold that for about 5 seconds. Make sure the ink gets soaked into the paper a little bit. All right. Clean that off. Now what I thought would be kind of fun is to play with the florals a little bit in a brush. So since we have some pink in there, I'm going to go ahead and use the Flirty Flamingo color. And I'm going to use the smaller flower outline from in here, right here. And I'm going to stamp, but I'm going to kind of go off a little bit. I'm going to bring this other piece that I've been stamping on just to keep this sheet clean. So I'm just inking this up in Flirty Flamingo. And I'm just going to kind of come in on the corner here. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Get that cleaned off. Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this on the inside. I'm not going to do anything else to the inside, but I will put more of the flower here in the corner. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my brush. I'm going to get some of this ink on it from the Flirty Flamingo. And I'm just going to kind of fill in a little bit there. Both of these flowers. And I'll do that here on the inside as well. And there's our finished card. You're showing off the quilt block for those quilt lovers. I think that turned out really pretty and it's a lot of fun. So another card design I wanted to show you was the same concept, but what if you wanted to do it on a 4 by 5 1/4? So I have 2 different card bases cut because we're going to want to decide the orientation. So you can use the 8.5 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2, or you can use the 8.5 by 5 1/2, scored at 4 1/4 orientation. So what we're going to do, here are my pieces. I have my pieces cut. I thought it would be kind of fun to use kind of a batik look. Still doing pink on the outside, and I'm doing more of these cloudy batik type pieces that are in the paper pack. I'm going to switch it. I'm going to have this first, this second, and that third. So I do that. This is a 4 by 5 1/4 cardstock base. This is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 matte layer. And then we have, this is 3¼ by 3¼ and this is a 2 by 2 because our angles will be different measuring it this way. Now the line we're going to draw a line, but the line we're going to draw isn't so that you can line up each piece with the line, because it's not going to work out that way, because they're right angles and this is not going to give us right angles. But it's going to give you your center and your starting point, because like I said in the other card, once you get the piece, first piece laid, you're lined up for the rest of your card. But to kind of get this so that I have this centered where I want it, I'm still going to draw a line from corner to corner and make your X so that you know where your center point is. And again, you're not going to see this when you put down your paper, but this is so you see where your center point is and your starting point. So again, we're going to start laying down our pieces. And I am going to line my top edge right here with this line, but I'm not worried about this line. It's just giving me a starting point. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and guess where my 1/2 inch piece is going to be. And go ahead and start laying these down. And I'm going to line up with that line to make sure my point is in the center. And I didn't even get the glue right, so it might be easier just to measure from here. Okay, get that in the center, line up with that line, and then lay it down. Now that we have this piece, we have the lineup for all of the rest of the pieces. So probably glue to about there. Line that top edge up with the top edge of this paper. Now this paper is our guide, and then we're going to butt that up. And then we'll do this next piece right about there. And you can lay them down like I'm doing and just kind of guess where your glue is going to need to be. Okay. So I have those 3 pieces down. We're going to go this way and start again. So I need this to be about there. So glue to about here. And we're going to line this up so that this top edge lines up with this line here and is butted up against those 3 pieces. There. And then our 3rd piece. And there's our 3rd piece. Okay, that's all lined up, following that line. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to line up with these 3 pieces and just make sure we're following that line and it's butting up. So we're going to need our glue to about there. Next piece. I hope the lighting is good on this video. I'll get to see it when I get it ready, but I lost a light bulb, so I need to go pick up some light bulbs today. And then our 3rd piece here. Okay, and then flip it, and then we're going to do our final pieces here, and that's going to just stick there in the center. Our second piece. I love this look. This cloudy batik-ish look. It's so pretty and simple. And then our last piece. Okay, so there's all of our pieces put onto our panel we're working with. So now we're going to go ahead and flip this over and start cutting these away. And again, there may be enough with these pieces, some of these are still fairly long, that you could make another card. Maybe not a 4 by 5 1/4, but maybe a 4 by 4 panel. You can also adjust the 4 by 4 panel and make it smaller. At some point you may have to adjust the size of these 1/2 inch strips. And I need to clean my scissors, they're gluey. Okay, and our last section here. And then we'll do our fill-in. Okay, so there, oh, it's so pretty. I love that. So this smaller square is going to fit into these smaller angles, and this one, doing it on a 4 by 5 1/4 instead of a square block, is going to give us different angles. So now we can go ahead and just fill in these angles. That's really pretty too. With this cloudy scene, you could maybe ink up this background with like a cloudy blue or whatever, and not put anything in here, and that would be really pretty on its own, but we're going to fill it in. So I'm just going to get some glue on here and start filling in my pieces. Okay, and now that those are in, we're going to go ahead and flip this over and cut those pieces away. Save them because we'll use them to fill in the other ones. Flip this around and do the same thing on these 2 spaces. Now these other pieces that are left over with these weird angles, you don't have to toss them out. If you have some die cuts that can cut out little flower shapes or little heart shapes or something to be able to use as embellishments, you can use these pieces for that as well. Okay, so there is our 4 by 5 1/4 piece. I'm going to do the same thing with this, and I'm going to mat it on a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 piece of Lost Lagoon, just like that, just to kind of showcase that pattern. And then go ahead and get that mounted. Nice. Okay, so now what we have to decide is if we want it in this orientation or in this orientation. I'm really kind of leaning towards this orientation, so we're going to go ahead and attach this here to this card base. And we could quilt it too. I did not quilt it. I was planning on it, but I really just kind of like it the way it turned out this way. So we'll leave it unquilted. And there's your card base. Now for this, I'm winging. For a sentiment, I was thinking I didn't want to do too much. Again, I want to just showcase the beautiful paper and the design of the inspired by this quilt block. So I was thinking I would just do a simple little, when you're cutting your paper, you have little 1/2-inch pieces. That would work great for a sentiment without distracting from that too much. Just kind of have it coming out at the side. And let's see, it has a hello. Let's see if this hello will fit on the, it will not fit on a 1/2-inch strip. So, oh, I have an idea. This punch is my go-to punch most of the time, and this hello will fit in that smaller circle. Let's try that. And I'll cut both to see which ones we like better. Now we could come out with just, we could do a circle right there that wouldn't detract. Oh, that might be nice. And we could do the scalloped. I'm going to go ahead and stamp both of these. I'm going to stamp it in the Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to stamp on both just so I can see which one we might like better. Now I don't like to cover up this center section, but I think it works fine that way. So this simple hello, or this hello. Definitely get a different look from each one. I think we're going to go with this simple, and I'm going to pop it up with some dimensionals. What a perfect little card to send to someone just to say, hey, I was thinking about you. Isn't that beautiful? So anyway, here are the 2 cards that we made today. And then another one I did play with our Country Corners paper. Let's see, this is called Countryside Inn paper. And I played with the stamp set Lasting Joy on the bottom here. But this is the same thing. This is the 4x4 panel. I quilted with a different embossing folder on this one. And you can see just playing with different papers, different embossing folders for quilting or not quilting at all, because this is just batik-ish and it's beautiful on its own. How fun it is just to create these different designs. So thank you for watching. I hope you get some paper out, scrap paper or regular paper, cut up your strips and make some of these designs. They are so fun to make and simple. And I will catch you on the next one.